Shalom. This week's Torah portion is Va'era, and I appeared, the second Torah portion in the book of Shemot, Exodus, beginning in chapter 6 and verse 2. It's here in Parashat Va'era that God begins to activate his mechanism for the redemption of Israel from Egyptian bondage. 7 of the 10 plagues that are visited upon Egypt take place here in our Torah portion. Last week we ended off on a dismal note. By the end of the first portion of Shemot, things were looking pretty bleak for the children of Israel. As Moshe summed it up, Hashem, my God, why have you done evil to this people? Why have you sent me? From the time I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he did evil to this people, but you did not rescue them. Moshe felt that as a direct result of his petition to Pharaoh to let the people go, the Egyptian king proceeded to embitter their lives even more, taking away their straw and making them find it themselves, calling them lazy, yet forcing them to continue to produce the same daily quota of bricks. The situation just seemed to be spiraling downwards into an ever deeper state of hopelessness. This portion of Va'era opens with a direct continuation of the concluding verse of last week's Parashat Shemot. That last verse, chapter 6 and verse 1, reads, "And Hashem said to Moshe, now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. For with a mighty hand he will send them out, and with a mighty hand he will drive them out of his land." What is this now? Why does God emphasize to Moshe now and not before? So open up your heart. What Hashem is saying is that now you will see what you would not have been able to see before. Now you will see means this is just the moment that I was waiting for. Hashem is saying, I was waiting for you to reach this place of despair, this feeling of utter hopelessness, total desolation, this understanding of your complete lack of power. It had to be real. It had to be made perfectly clear to you that nothing can be accomplished with Pharaoh by any human means, by any ordinary human means. Moshe and Aaron know it, and now the people know it too. The news is all over town. Having departed from the presence of Pharaoh, Moshe and Aaron are confronted by the foremen of the children of Israel, who tell them, may Hashem look upon you and judge, because things have become only so much worse for our people since you got involved with your message from God. Moshe and Aaron only ended up demonstrating their complete inability to do anything about the situation. But now, open up your heart in the deepest way, as Hashem said, now you will see what I shall do to Pharaoh. Now the deliverance can begin, and everyone will know that help comes from God alone. I've cleared the playing field, he's saying, in a whole new way. That's the meaning of God's expression, his mighty hand. It will be apparent, it will be abundantly clear, it will be self-evident that this process of deliverance is the manifestation of the power of Hashem. But you had to hit rock bottom first. You had to get to the point of despairing of any human agency, and you had to let it go and understand that this is beyond you. Now, says Hashem, you can recognize me in this world. So last week we began Shemot, this book of names, and we learned a little bit about the significance of names. As Parashat Va'era opens, it's all about Hashem's name, about God's identity. Now, we know that God is one, and his name is one, and we know that he's the endless creator. So how do we relate to him? And Torah teaches us that we can relate to him through his names. He makes himself known to creation and relatable through various attributes. And Torah employs various names in various places which convey these attributes, such as kindness or strict justice. It's on that note that our parsha begins. God spoke to Moshe and said to him, I am Hashem. I am the answer to your despair. It's all me. Verse 2 begins, God, Elohim, spoke to Moshe. The name Elohim refers to the invisible one who directs the visible, God who directs what is manifested within the natural order of the world. He is the one who has orchestrated all that is visibly happening until now. Says God, I allowed for the desperation you feel in the prison of your constricted reality of Egypt. I allowed for all this misery to reach its climax because it was part of my purpose. It was part of my goal. I appeared to Avraham, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov as El Shaddai, but with my name Hashem, I did not make myself known to them. This verse seems very difficult to understand. In what way did God limit knowledge of himself to the forefathers with whom he was so close? Why is this differentiation relevant now? And what is the significance of this name El Shaddai? And why is the name of Hashem only being introduced now? El Shaddai is the name, and therefore that aspect of himself, that God revealed to the patriarchs. Thus we find that God spoke to Abraham with this name in Genesis chapter 17 and verse 1, and Isaac blessed Jacob using this name in chapter 28, and God spoke to Jacob using this name in Genesis 35, and more. And what is the meaning of this holy name, Shaddai? It comes from the Hebrew word dai, which literally means enough. Our sages explain that this name alludes to the secret that at the time of creation, Hashem said enough to his world. Expand until here and no further. He set boundaries of creation, the borders of heaven and earth, like the shore of the sea. He arranged that each aspect of creation should extend until here and no further. These are the borders of physical reality. Existence is within these borders. Hashem brought forth existence and declared enough to his world. And thus the name El Shaddai reflects God's aspect of creating and controlling the world within limitations, of maintaining the natural order of things, reality existing within the specific parameters of the anticipated and expected laws of nature. And the truth is that actually we find numerous verses in which God indeed spoke with the forefathers with the name of Hashem, such as with Abraham at the covenant between the portions and concerning the circumcision, the commandment of the circumcision. So what does it really mean that he did not make himself known to them by this name? So open up your heart in the deepest way. It's not that he didn't make himself known by the name Hashem. It means that they did not recognize him by that name because it was through the attribute of El Shaddai, the all-sufficient one, that God manifested himself to the forefathers. And so that is how they perceived him. It was to them that he made the promise of Israel's future redemption. And it was the forefathers who brought the knowledge of God to the world. They knew that he brought forth all of creation, controls all within it, that he effects tremendous miracles within the boundaries of creation. But for them, he had not yet changed the very order, the very structure of creation beyond the boundaries. But henceforth, as will be manifest through Moshe, the name Hashem, which expresses God's preeminence over all and the fluid changeability of all creation, the bending of reality beyond the rules, because the nature of his true reality is that there are no rules, this name will now be known through the events that are about to unfold. And God had been preparing creation for this revelation of the true meaning of his name from the very beginning of history. But the promise of redemption had not yet been fulfilled. And now he's about to deliver on that promise. And Israel's redemption will be orchestrated on a whole other level, on a level above nature, breaking all the borders of the physical and mundane and expected beyond all perceived limitations. So what Hashem is really telling Moshe is that he is now introducing this side of himself into the world, that all of creation is about to experience something new. And from this point on, you will know me as the one who changes reality. And I am independent of and in spite of, or even against the very foundations of creation. From this moment on, you will witness a completely new world, and all the conditions that seemingly governed over human history until now and allowed for the likes of Pharaoh are suspended. Hashem informs us that what will be the result of this revelation. Therefore, say to the children of Israel, I am Hashem, and I shall take you out from under the burdens of Egypt. I shall rescue you from their service. I shall redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments. I shall take you to me for a people, and I shall be a God to you, and you shall know that I am Hashem your God, who takes you out from under the burdens of Egypt. The 10 plagues that were visited upon Pharaoh and Egypt, they weren't a punishment. It wasn't a punishment for mistreating Israel or for refusing to free her, but rather they were about Pharaoh's rejection and dismissal of Hashem. Preceding the first plague of blood, Hashem himself declared in chapter 7, verse 17, right before the blood, he said, through this shall you know that I am Hashem. The primary goal of the plague was to demonstrate God's unparalleled power, not for punishment, but for knowledge. Knowledge of existence beyond the borders. This whole Parsha, Va'era, and the whole story of the exile and the 10 plagues and the Exodus, and then the building of the tabernacle and the beginning of the trek to the land of Israel, and for that matter, the entire Torah, it's all a clarification of Hashem's name as the basis of true reality. Understanding this sheds light on so many verses like Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 9, but I acted for my name's sake, or Isaiah 48 and verse 9, for my name's sake, or Psalms 106, but he saved them for his name's sake. And of course, in Zechariah 14, on that day, Hashem and his name will be one. Because the Torah's message of exile and redemption from Egypt is for all time and applicable to each and every one of us for all the exiles that we go through, we find that the preeminence of the concept of the Exodus from Egypt in Torah is unparalleled. It's mentioned tens of times. We're commanded to remember it constantly. We recite it twice daily as part of the Shema prayer. And it's recalled in the Kiddush sanctification prayer, which inaugurates the weekly Shabbat. The experience that we went through in Egypt teaches us that Hashem is not limited. Yet people continue to limit him, and we all at times give in to desperation. But only Hashem is master. If what we perceive to be reality discourages us, maybe we needed to get to this point so that we can recognize him, so that we too will be ready to acknowledge, to declare to all the pharaohs of today that it's Hashem who runs the world. And then he can show us once again, as promised, that there are no rules that bind him. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. If you enjoy these presentations and benefit from these teachings, please consider helping Jerusalemites with your support. Only your support enables these broadcasts to continue and grow.